Assalamu alaikum. In this short video, I want to show you briefly of what Jewish sources tell us regarding the scrolls of the Torah. I know you're probably thinking, we know Moses didn't write the Torah, nor do we have anything going back to his time. But trust me, in this video, I want to show you something new. Now, we find a really interesting story in the book of Kings. During the reign of King Josiah, Hilkiah the high priest told Shaphan the secretary, I have found the Torah. This is really interesting. Why would he tell the secretary he found the Torah when the Torah was already with him? It makes no sense. Here's where it gets really interesting, because Rashi, according to the Jewish rabbis, the most renowned scholar of the Tanakh and Talmud, he tells us, I have found the Torah scroll. It was hidden under a layer of stones where they had concealed it when Achaz burnt the Torah. According to 2nd Devril Haimomin 34:14, this was the original scroll, Torah scroll, written by Moshe. God had commanded Moshe to write this scroll at the end of his life. And he quotes Devarim 31:24-26. We read in the Mishnah, there were 5 events that happened to our ancestors on the 17th of Tammuz and 5 on the 9th of Av. On the 17th of Tammuz, the tablets were shattered, the Tamid, offering was cancelled, the walls of the city were breached, and Apostamos burnt the Torah and placed an idol in the temple. Mishnah, Danis chapter 4. We read from the Halakha, on the 17th of Tammuz, the tablets were broken by Moses Rabbeinu seeing the golden calf. The Tamid, twice daily offering ceased. The city Jerusalem was breached. Apostamos burnt the Torah, and an idol was erected in the sanctuary. Halakha, the Orach Chaim Siman 549. Rabbeinu Bahya Bamidar 33:38 reads, on the 9th of that month the temple was burnt and the Torah with it. Aruch Hashulchan Oraich Shem 549, and the city of Jerusalem was breached at the time of the destruction of the second temple, and Apostamos burnt the Torah and set up an image in the temple chamber. And again, Talmud Kedushin 39b points to Apostamos burning the Torah by using an example regarding sins and merits. Talmud Tanit 26b, Apostamos publicly burnt the Torah, and Manasseh placed an idol in the sanctuary. Musar Kav Hayashar chapter 102. Therefore the sages relate that when the Torah scroll was burnt by the Romans, together with Rabbi Hanina ben Taradion, the letters flew off and only the parchment was burnt. Avodah Zarah 18a. Interesting, the rabbis admit scroll of the Torah being burnt by the Romans, yet we read in Musar Kav Hayashar, to save the embarrassment, he tries to cover the story by saying that the letters flew off. Now, that's fine. You can, save yourself from the embarrassment. But the point is that your Torah scroll was burnt. And this is evidence from your own teachers, from your rabbis. So if the original scroll was burnt, what do you have? And again, going back to 2 Kings 22, if the high priest found the book of the law or the Torah in the temple, why would he make such a big fuss if they had multiple copies of the Torah anyway? It just gets worse each time you talk about it. I mean, the other incidents that happen that are documented in the Talmud, for example, Titus the Roman emperor, according to Talmud Gittin 56b, Titus conquered the temple, took a prostitute, engaged in sexual intercourse on top of the Torah scroll, took a sword and cut the temple curtains. Now, these kind of informations are documented. The irony behind it is that the Jesus' so-called crucifixion and the temple curtain or the veil splitting in half is not documented. Whatever the case, the fact that they have an issue with the preservation of the Torah says a lot. And one can find problems upon problems with their preservation. I mean, take for example Talmud Megillah 9a, when the Septuagint began during the reign of Ptolemy II. The rabbis tell us that changes were made by the order of Ptolemy II. Subhanallah. So the ruler of that time was actually telling those who were writing the Septuagint, make changes here and make changes there. And this is documented in the Talmud. It's just a mess. Don't you think it's time we ask them, if all the scrolls were burnt, how do you know you have the original Torah? Assalamu alaikum